Hello, everyone. Welcome to English Growth Way, where we share inspiring, life-changing stories. Today, you'll hear about more than success. This is a story of struggle, pain, determination, and the power of never giving up. It begins with a young boy who had nothing, no money, no comfortable home, not even enough food. A boy who lost everything young, faced hunger, loneliness, and endless hardships alone. But he refused to accept his fate. He walked 470 kilometers over 2 years with no money, food, or shelter. He faced storms, hunger, and exhaustion, but never stopped. That boy became the founder of the world's most powerful luxury brand, Louis Vuitton. How did a homeless, hungry boy build a billion-dollar empire? How did he turn pain into power and struggles into success? Every detail here is true. Watch the full story to understand this journey from nothing to ultimate luxury. This story will inspire you and naturally improve your English through engaging storytelling and rich vocabulary. Now let's begin. Chapter 1. A boy born into hardship. In 1821, a baby boy named Louis Vuitton was born to a poor family in a small French village called Antibes. Life offered no comfort or wealth. His father, Xavier Vuitton, was a carpenter who built furniture. His mother, Corinne Gallard, made hats for local women. They worked day and night, yet barely earned enough for food. Louis grew up in a tiny wooden house with a leaking roof and cold, damp floors. Winters in Antibes were brutal. Snow covered the village for months, and freezing winds made life harder. There was no heating, warm blankets, or comfortable beds. Louis learned early that life wasn't fair. While rich children had toys and schools, Louis spent his childhood helping his father carry heavy wooden planks, hammer nails, and clean sawdust. His hands grew rough, his clothes tore, and his stomach often stayed empty. But Louis was different. Though poor, he had a dream. He watched travelers pass through his village, rich people in fine clothes carrying beautiful wooden trunks. Where were they going? Who made those trunks? Louis had never seen beyond his village, but his heart longed for more. He was curious and desperate for a better life. Then fate struck hard. When Louis was 10, his mother fell sick. With no doctors nearby, she grew weaker each day. One morning, as the sun rose, she took her last breath. Louis stood silent by her grave, unable to cry. His father, broken by grief, became distant and cold. Louis felt completely alone. But in that pain, he made a decision. He would leave Antibes and chase his dream. Chapter 2. The Impossible Journey to Paris. At 13, Louis had no money, horse, or food. Paris, the city of dreams, was 470 kilometers away, an impossible distance. One evening, as the village slept, Louis packed a small bag. He had no map or guide, only a dream. Without telling his father or saying goodbye, he left before sunrise. He walked for hours, then days, then weeks. His feet blistered, his body weakened. Sometimes kind strangers gave him food. Other times he slept hungry under trees, using his bag as a pillow. He crossed forests, mountains, and rivers, working as a farm helper in exchange for food. Rain soaked his clothes. Winter winds burned his skin. But he never turned back. After 2 years of walking and struggling with only determination, Louis finally reached Paris. But Paris wasn't the magical place he'd imagined. The city was massive, with crowded streets, rushing carriages, and markets overflowing with food and luxury. The air smelled of fresh bread and coffee, things Louis had never experienced. Yet another side existed, dirty streets packed with beggars, thieves, and workers struggling to eat. Paris was cruel to the poor. Louis stood at the city's edge, exhausted, his clothes torn and feet bleeding. His stomach growled, but he had no food. Fear crept in. Where would he sleep? How would he survive? That first night was the hardest. Louis found an abandoned wooden cart near a bakery. He crawled inside, clutching his bag as people shouted and horses clattered outside. Rats scurried nearby, but Louis was too tired to care. The next morning, hunger woke him early. He watched well-dressed people buy golden bread and buttery croissants. The smell twisted his stomach. He needed work. Louis went shop to shop asking for a job. Every answer was the same. No experience, no work, no connections. Days passed. Louis grew weaker, eating scraps from markets. His body ached. His clothes were dirty. He'd never felt so alone. But he refused to give up. Chapter 3. The Breakthrough at Monsieur Marichel's Workshop. One evening, as the sun set, Louis noticed a man struggling to carry a large wooden trunk into a shop. Without thinking, Louis ran to help. The man watched in surprise as they lifted the trunk inside. The shop was unlike anything Louis had seen. Wooden trunks of all shapes lined the walls, some covered in leather, others decorated with brass locks. It was one of Paris's finest workshops. The owner, Monsieur Marichel, studied Louis with sharp eyes. "You're strong for a boy your size," he said. "What's your name?" "Louis Vuitton, sir," Louis replied, taking a deep breath. This was his chance. "I want to work." Marichel raised an eyebrow. "Can you make trunks?" Louis hesitated. "No, sir, but I can learn." The old man chuckled. "Everyone says that, but not everyone works hard." Louis's stomach tightened. He'd come too far to fail. "Give me a chance," he said firmly. "I'll work harder than anyone." Marichel finally nodded. "Fine. Start tomorrow. No pay yet. Work, learn, and we'll talk later." Louis bowed. "Thank you, sir." He'd found work, but this was only the beginning. The next morning, Louis arrived before sunrise. The workshop was freezing, filled with the scent of wood and glue. Tools lay scattered: hammers, saws, chisels, needles for stitching leather. Louis swept floors, fetched tools, and cleaned up after workers. At first, he didn't mind being indoors, away from the cold streets. But weeks passed, and he still did only basic tasks. He wanted to build and create. One evening, after everyone left, Louis stayed behind. He picked up a small wooden panel and practiced, imitating what he'd seen during the day. The next morning, Marichel noticed the piece. He examined the clean edges and precise stitches. "Did you make this?" Louis nodded nervously. Marichel didn't smile, but he didn't scold him either. "From now on, stay after work. I'll teach you." That night, Louis worked harder than ever. He learned to shape wood, select the best leather, and stitch perfectly. He watched master craftsmen, memorizing their moves. Months turned into years. Louis was no longer just an apprentice. He was becoming a craftsman. By 20, his hands were no longer those of a poor village boy. They belonged to a skilled artisan. He worked faster and more precisely than others, creating designs that caught people's attention. Nobles and wealthy customers started requesting him by name. "I want my trunk made by Vuitton," they'd say. "That boy makes Paris's finest trunks." His reputation grew. He was no longer a poor worker. He was valuable. Chapter 4. The Empress's Game-Changing Request. One day, an elegant woman entered the shop. She wore a luxurious silk gown and pearl necklace, but her name changed everything. She was Empress Eugenie, wife of Napoleon III, ruler of France. She wasn't just wealthy, she was royalty. Her gown shimmered under golden chandeliers as she glanced unimpressed at ordinary trunks. But when her eyes fell on Louis, she studied him. "Are you the craftsman called Vuitton?" she asked, her voice smooth but commanding. Louis swallowed hard. "Yes, Your Majesty," he replied, bowing slightly. She turned to Marichal. "I need a trunk. Not just any trunk," she said. "I travel often, and mine are too heavy and impractical. I want something elegant yet functional, something no one has seen before." Louis's mind raced. This was his chance to impress the Empress and spread his name across France. But if he failed, he'd lose everything. Louis knew traditional trunks were bulky, round-topped, and hard to stack. They were covered in thick leather, making them heavy. But Louis had an idea. Stepping forward, his hands trembling slightly, he said, "Your Majesty, what if I create a trunk that's light, elegant, and stackable? A flat-top trunk covered in waterproof canvas instead of leather. It would be durable, easy to carry, and perfect for travel." Silence filled the room. Marichal stared as if Louis had lost his mind. No one had changed trunk designs before. But Empress Eugenie tilted her head, intrigued. "A flat-top trunk. Canvas instead of leather?" she repeated. "Interesting. Can you do it?" Louis's heart pounded. "Yes, Your Majesty. I'll create a trunk unlike any other." A small smile touched her lips. "Then do it, Vuitton. Impress me." For weeks, Louis worked day and night. This was his moment to prove himself. First, he designed the frame using lightweight yet strong poplar wood instead of heavy wood. Next, he replaced the rounded top with a flat surface, allowing trunks to stack neatly. But the biggest innovation was the material. He used waterproof gray canvas instead of leather, a durable fabric that resisted moisture and stains. Days turned into weeks. Louis barely slept, his hands covered in cuts and glue. When finished, the trunk was breathtaking. The canvas shimmered under light, brass locks gleamed. It wasn't just a trunk, it was a masterpiece. On presentation day, Louis stood in the Empress's palace, heart pounding. Nobles whispered, unimpressed by the young craftsman in simple clothes. Empress Eugenie entered, her gown flowing like water. She examined the trunk silently, running her fingers over the smooth canvas and inspecting the locks. Everyone held their breath. Finally, she looked at Louis. "Vuitton," she said. "This is extraordinary." Murmurs spread through the room. Marichal stared in shock. "From now on," the Empress continued, "you will be my personal trunk maker." Louis had won the trust of France's most powerful woman. Everything changed. Chapter 5. Building an Empire Amidst War. The Empress's endorsement was more than an honor, it was an opportunity. Suddenly, Paris's elite wanted Vuitton trunks. Aristocrats, politicians, and wealthy travelers placed orders. But Louis was still just a worker in Marichal's shop. No matter how talented, he'd always be under someone else's control. He needed to break free. After years of loyalty, Louis made his boldest decision. He left and started his own business. With little saved money, about $1,000 today, he rented a small space in Paris. The shop was modest, few tools, one workbench, but it was his. He hung a sign, Louis Vuitton, maladier, trunk maker. He was no longer a poor village boy. He was a business owner. Starting wasn't easy. The first months were brutal. Louis had no employees or factory. Every trunk was handmade by him alone. He worked from sunrise to midnight, barely stopping to eat. Then disaster struck. The Franco-Prussian War erupted. Paris's streets became battlefields. Wealthy customers fled, factories shut down. Suddenly, no one bought luxury goods. Louis's shop, once growing, stood empty. Orders stopped. Money stopped. He faced bankruptcy. For months, he fought to survive, selling tools, cutting costs, working harder. But time ran out. Then, when hope seemed lost, the war ended. Peace returned, and with it, a new era. People wanted to travel again, seeking style and innovation. They wanted Louis Vuitton trunks. Orders flooded in. His nearly abandoned shop became Paris's most talked about business. But Louis didn't just rebuild, he expanded. In 1871, he opened a new workshop in Asnières, 4 times larger than his old shop. He hired workers, trained apprentices, and designed new collections. His dream was no longer a shop, it was an empire. While building his business, Louis's personal life changed too. He married Clemence Emily Perriot, a strong woman who believed in his dreams. She wasn't just his wife, she was his partner. They had a son, Georges Vuitton, who later expanded the business. But success cost Louis. Obsessed with perfection, he spent endless nights in his workshop, missing family time. Yet he understood something crucial. To build a lasting brand, sell to the rich. The wealthy influenced trends. If they used Vuitton trunks, everyone else would dream of owning one. Rich customers also didn't argue about prices. They cared about exclusivity. Louis never sold to the masses. He focused on elite clients willing to pay top dollar for unique, handcrafted items. This strategy worked like magic. Soon, bankers, businessmen, and world travelers ordered Vuitton trunks. Owning one became a status symbol. Chapter 6: Georges Vuitton and the Battle Against Fakes. Louis Vuitton built an empire, but his journey ended in 1892 when he passed away, leaving son Georges in charge. Before dying, Louis gave Georges one final lesson: never sell cheap. Never sell to the masses. Our name must stand for the best. If the world changes, we must change with it, but never lose what makes us special. Georges was young and ambitious, determined to take his father's vision higher. He expanded beyond travel trunks, introducing handbags, cutlery bags, and luxury minibars that changed high fashion. As business grew, copycats appeared. Cheap imitations flooded markets, tricking customers into buying fake Vuitton trunks. Louis knew he had to protect the brand. In 1896, he introduced the LV monogram to stop counterfeits, making Louis Vuitton a name only the wealthy could afford. Under Georges, the brand didn't just survive, it dominated the luxury market. But nothing lasts forever. Georges aged. The empire grew too big for one man. The world changed fast. Automobiles, airplanes, and new fashion emerged. Georges had worked tirelessly to expand Louis Vuitton, introducing leather handbags and accessories that became status symbols. He opened stores internationally, making it a global name. He protected exclusivity, ensuring LV remained luxury for the elite. But in the 1930s, Georges faced his greatest challenge. His health failed. Years of stress and innovation took their toll. By 1936, Georges passed away, ending an era. Who would continue the empire? Chapter 7. Gaston's Survival Through War and Change. Gaston Louis Vuitton, Georges' son, stepped forward. Gaston grew up surrounded by luxury and craftsmanship. He'd watched his father expand the brand, and now it was his turn. But the world was different. The Great Depression, 1929 to 1939, destroyed businesses worldwide. Automobiles and airplanes made traditional trunks less important. Fashion was changing. People wanted more than luxury luggage. Gaston knew if the company didn't adapt, it would die. So he made bold moves, expanding beyond travel bags into small leather goods and purses, creating high-end handbags for everyday fashion, innovating designs to make Louis Vuitton more fashion-forward. But before he could push further, World War II erupted, putting everything at risk. From 1939 to 1945, France was occupied by Nazi Germany. Businesses shut down, luxury brands struggled. Gaston had to choose: close the business or find a way to survive. To keep running, Louis Vuitton worked with the German-occupied French government, a controversial decision hidden for decades. Despite the war, Louis Vuitton survived. When it ended, Gaston focused on rebuilding the brand's image. But Europe was in economic ruins. The luxury market was weak. Gaston knew one thing: the rich always stay rich. Even in hard times, the wealthy elite wanted luxury. So Louis Vuitton focused on exclusive, high-quality products only the world's richest could afford. This strategy worked. By the 1950s, Louis Vuitton was back on top, introducing famous handbags like the Speedy bag for fashionable women on the go, the Keep All bag, a stylish alternative to luggage, and the No bag, originally for champagne bottles. Louis Vuitton was no longer just a travel brand, it was a fashion icon. But Gaston was aging. Who would take the empire forward? Chapter 8. Rackemeier's Global Vision. By the 1960s, Louis Vuitton was a respected luxury brand, but the world moved faster than ever. New trends emerged, competition grew. Gaston brought in his son-in-law, Henri Rackemeyer, to modernize the business. Henri was a brilliant visionary. When he took control, he saw Louis Vuitton wasn't just a brand. It was an untapped gold mine waiting to explode. But there was a problem. Louis Vuitton sold only to a small European elite. It was respected, but not a global powerhouse. So Henri made bold, risky moves that changed luxury history forever. First, he expanded to the richest markets, the US, Japan, and the Middle East, where the world's wealthiest craved luxury. Second, he raised prices, knowing expensive items increased desire. A Louis Vuitton handbag became a status symbol. Third, he transformed stores into luxury palaces with private shopping areas, champagne service, and VIP treatment. But this was just the beginning. Louis Vuitton targeted the top 1%, millionaires, billionaires, celebrities, and royalty. They introduced limited edition bags, exotic leather products, and custom-made collections. Some exclusive items included crocodile skin handbags, starting at $50,000, python and ostrich skin bags, collector's items, custom mini bars and cutlery sets for private jets and yachts, costing hundreds of thousands, and unique travel trunks, up to $500,000. But popularity brought counterfeits. In the 1980s, fake LV bags flooded Paris, New York, and Tokyo streets. This threatened the brand's image. If everyone had a Louis Vuitton bag, it wouldn't be special. Henry launched one of history's biggest anti-counterfeiting campaigns, hiring investigators to shut down fake factories, working with governments for strict laws, and adding security features to products. But Henry knew Louis Vuitton needed to be more than luggage. In 1987, he made a historic move, merging Louis Vuitton with Moët and Chandon, luxury champagne, and Hennessy, premium cognac, to create LVMH, Louis Vuitton Moët Hennessy. This was brilliant. Louis Vuitton was now part of the world's biggest luxury group, controlling dozens of brands in fashion, jewelry, cosmetics, and alcohol. But Henry didn't enjoy his empire long. As LVMH grew, a young businessman named Bernard Arnault entered. Arnault saw LVMH as an opportunity and wanted control. In 1989, he used aggressive tactics to push Henry out and take full control. This move was controversial, but it made Arnault the most powerful man in luxury fashion. Chapter 9. Arnault's billion-dollar empire. Once in control, Bernard Arnault transformed LVMH into a financial powerhouse. He expanded into new markets like China, Russia, and India. He bought luxury brands like Dior, Givenchy, and Fendi, making LVMH the world's most powerful fashion group. He introduced super high-end products costing millions. Today, under Arnault, LVMH is worth over $500 billion, the richest luxury company globally. Arnault himself is often ranked as the world's richest person, with a net worth over $200 billion. Louis Vuitton now represents exclusivity. Owning an LV bag means you've succeeded. It represents luxury craftsmanship. Every product is handmade by the world's best artisans. It's a status symbol, whether a handbag, luggage, or custom mini bar. Louis Vuitton is the ultimate sign of wealth. After 170-plus years, it remains the world's most powerful luxury brand. And it all started with one young man, Louis Vuitton, who had nothing but a dream. Chapter 10. A Legacy of Excellence. The story of Louis Vuitton is about hard work, big dreams, and never giving up. He was just a poor boy from a small village, but he had a vision. He believed in himself. Step by step, he built something great. He started with simple things, but he wanted more. He worked every day, always trying to be better. Now, Louis Vuitton is one of the biggest luxury brands in the world. The company didn't always have good times. There were wars, money problems, and fights about control. But still, the brand survived. Why? Because they never stopped trying. They believed in excellence. They believed in quality. And they kept moving forward. Today, in 2025, the world still has problems, just like in the past. Life is not always easy, but if we want to succeed, we must take action. We must believe in our goals, even when the road is hard. Louis Vuitton's story is not just about fashion. It's about power, passion, and purpose. It shows us that anyone can build something amazing if they work hard and stay strong. This is not just a brand. It is a legacy. And remember, success is possible, but you have to move. You have to try. No one will do it for you. Start today, keep going, and never give up.